It started with pounding loud, insistent, like someone was trying to break the door down just to make a point. I was halfway through my morning coffee, enjoying the quiet ripple of the lake outside, when the ruckus began. Through the cabin's front window, I saw them. A swarm of HOA members trudging up my dock and porch as if they were storming an enemy fort. At the head of the pack was Brenda Mallory, the HOA president and self-proclaimed guardian of community standards. Her round frame wrapped in a cream cardigan that strained at the buttons, her chin lifted like she was about to deliver a sermon. She had a folder in one hand and a bullhorn in the other. The scene was so absurd I almost thought it was a prank. I opened the door before she could start shouting through the bullhorn. "Can I help you?" My voice was calm, but my pulse was already up. Brenda didn't even wait for an invitation. She stepped right inside, the scent of her over-applied perfume mixing with the smell of fresh coffee. "This cabin," she announced, as if reading from a proclamation, "is in violation of multiple HOA guidelines and is hereby subject to immediate community reclamation." Her words landed like a slap, followed by the shuffle of her entourage filing in behind her. "Reclamation," I repeated, eyebrows raised. She thrust a stack of papers at me, brimming with highlighted passages and handwritten notes in red ink. "Your property, though picturesque, has been deemed underutilized. The board has voted to repurpose it as a shared community event space. This includes access for private rentals, weddings, and lakefront festivals. You may remove personal belongings at your earliest convenience. Today would be preferable." I almost laughed. "You're telling me you're taking my home and turning it into a party hall?" Brenda's lips curled into a satisfied smile. "It's not your home. According to our records, it's part of the original lake development plan, and thus under HOA jurisdiction." The others murmured in agreement, though I noticed a few wouldn't meet my eyes. I stepped back, letting her words hang in the air. "Brenda, you've made a mistake. A big one." "Oh?" she asked, her tone dripping with condescension. "Yes," I said, "because while you've been busy writing up fake violations, you never bothered to check the property deeds for the entire lake community." Her smirk faltered, just a little. "See," I continued, "this cabin isn't just mine. The land it sits on, the one you claim falls under your HOA's control, I own it, and not just this parcel. I own the land under all 54 homes in this so-called lake community." A hush swept over the room. You could hear the wind tapping the window glass. Brenda barked out a laugh brittle as old glass. "That's ridiculous. You can't possibly." I reached for the leather folio on the counter, flipping it open to reveal the original land grant from 1968, signed by the county commissioner, along with the most recent tax receipts showing every property paying me ground rent. "You've all been paying to lease the dirt under your homes from me for decades. Your HOA fees don't even cover it, your individual ground leases do. That means when you're standing here threatening to take my cabin, you're threatening the man who can terminate your lease agreements with cause." One of the men in her entourage, a tall guy with a receding hairline, cleared his throat nervously. "Is that true?" he asked, directing the question at Brenda. She waved him off. "Irrelevant. The board has—" "No, Brenda," I interrupted. "It's very relevant, because in your lease contracts, there's a clause about unlawful trespass and attempted seizure of property. Violate that, and I have the legal right to revoke your ground lease, which means you lose your home." A ripple of unease moved through the group. Two women in the back were already inching toward the door. Brenda's face was turning the color of overripe tomatoes, but she doubled down. "This is intimidation. I will not be. This is fact," I said, my voice rising just enough to cut her off. "You wanted to storm in here with your papers and your power trip. But the truth is, you're standing on my floorboards, in my cabin, on my land, under a lease I control." Her eyes darted toward the papers in my folio, then back to the people behind her. For the first time, I saw something flicker in her gaze. Panic. I knew I had her, and that was before the twist. Because from the kitchen doorway, another voice joined in, deep and steady. "And he's not bluffing, Brenda." It was Tom Alvarez, the county property assessor, and my cousin, holding a manila envelope. I brought copies of every deed and lease for this development. We've known about your little overreach for months. Brenda spun to face him, sputtering. You can't. Oh, I can, Tom said, stepping forward. And I'll be happy to present this at the next county commission meeting, along with the complaints about your misuse of HOA funds. The silence that followed was so complete I could hear the ice settling in my coffee mug. I took a slow breath. So here's what's going to happen. You and your board are going to leave my cabin. You're going to stop any attempt to reclaim it. And you're going to issue a public apology to every homeowner for misleading them about what you can and cannot control. If you don't, I'll begin lease termination proceedings tomorrow. Brenda's jaw worked soundlessly. She looked at her people for support, but most of them were staring at the floor or the lake outside. The Queen had no court left. Brenda's eyes darted from face to face, searching for even one loyal nod. But the crowd that had marched up here like soldiers now looked like a group of kids caught cheating on a test. One man at the back muttered, "I told you this was a bad idea," and slipped out the door, his boots crunching on the gravel as he made for his truck. That tiny sound, the crunch of retreat, set off a chain reaction. One by one, people began shuffling out, murmuring excuses about needing to get back or checking on the kids. The porch groaned under the sudden shift of bodies moving away from her. Brenda's hands trembled as she clutched her folder to her chest. "You think you've humiliated me, Lawson, but this isn't over," she hissed, her voice low and shaky. "The HOA has resources you can't imagine." I took a step closer, just enough so she had to tilt her chin to keep eye contact. "And I have the one resource you can't live without: your land lease. Every one of your resources sits on my dirt, Brenda. Remember that when you feel like bluffing again." Tom slid the manila envelope onto the counter with a soft thud. "All notarized. Copies already with the county clerk and the sheriff." His tone was light, but the weight of his words crushed what little defiance she had left. Her last card was to storm out, slamming the screen door so hard it bounced open again. Tom closed it gently behind her. Outside, she tried to rally the few stragglers, but their faces were stone. Some even looked angry, not at me, but at her. They didn't follow when she stalked down the dock alone. By sunset, word had raced through the entire lake community faster than a summer storm. My phone buzzed with messages from homeowners, some apologizing, some demanding to know what else Brenda had lied about. A few confessed they'd been bullied into supporting her schemes because they didn't realize the real balance of power. Now they did. The HOA meeting that had been scheduled for the following Thursday became a spectacle. The tiny rec hall was overflowing, people packed shoulder to shoulder, voices buzzing. I stood in the back with Tom, letting the anticipation build. When Brenda walked in, she didn't have her usual air of command. Her eyes flicked nervously from the folding chairs to the stack of papers in her hands, as if she could still talk her way out of a noose. The vice president of the HOA, a quiet man named Mark who'd been in her shadow for years, called the meeting to order. But before Brenda could launch into her version of events, Mark cleared his throat and said, "Before we get to new business, I think we need to address a serious legal matter." He looked directly at me. "Mr. Lawson, would you come forward?" I walked up slowly, feeling every set of eyes in the room on me. Tom handed me the folder. I laid it on the front table, flipped it open, and began to speak not with anger, but with calm certainty. I explained the history of the land grant, the lease agreements, the exact legal boundaries of HOA authority, and the clauses that allowed me to terminate leases for unlawful actions. Every time I paused, the silence was complete. People were leaning forward, hanging on each word. When I finished, I looked straight at Brenda. "You marched onto my property with the intent to seize it. That's grounds for termination of your lease. I'm offering you and only you the courtesy of resigning from your position and issuing a public apology tonight. If you refuse, I will begin proceedings tomorrow morning." She opened her mouth, but whatever speech she'd prepared died under the weight of the crowd's stares. Mark stepped in. "I move to remove Brenda Mallory as president, effective immediately." The motion was seconded before she could blink. The vote wasn't close. 47 hands raised in favor, 3 abstentions, and not a single vote to keep her. Brenda's face crumpled. She tried to gather her papers, but they spilled from her shaking hands. A few fluttered to the floor, and no one bent to help her. She walked out alone, the door clicking shut behind her like the lid of a coffin. The room exhaled all at once. Conversations erupted, some relieved, some still stunned. Mark turned to me. "You've done more than protect your cabin. You've reminded this community who actually holds the keys." In the weeks that followed, the HOA restructured under new leadership. Rules were rewritten to ensure no one could ever pull Brenda's stunts again. People who had barely spoken to me before now waved from their porches, dropped off baked bread, even invited me to fish at their docks. The air felt different, lighter, freer. As for Brenda, she left town within the month. I heard she tried to start over in another development 2 counties away, but word about her reputation got there before she did. Her name became a warning, a lesson in overreach and arrogance. I still sit on that porch some mornings, coffee in hand, watching the light shift on the water. The sign at the edge of the dock still reads, "This cabin pays your HOA." And now it's more than just a jab, it's a reminder of what happens when you stand your ground. So tell me, was I right to use my leverage to bring her down, or should I have found a softer way to end it?